different negative effects on my life and on my journey, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize how deep I had gone into depression, but it was a product of what? Of guess what? Of betrayal and being betrayed. It was a product of me being betrayed by somebody. But again, I had to learn from it. I had to wake up from it. Not only that, but I had to take ownership and accountability. You know what I'm saying? I had to realize what where I was. I had to realize what I did. I had to realize the decisions that I made. A lot of times we want to get angry and blame God, but listen, it's a little bit deeper than that. Like what part did you play in it? Like there were some decisions that were made that God wasn't involved in that decision. And sometimes I think we think we involve God in certain decisions, but really you have to ask yourself, and I had to ask myself that about a marriage. Was that a decision that God made? So I was upset with God because I'm like, man, I'm in this marriage, but why did you let me get hurt? Listen, God didn't put a gun to my head and say, "Hey, walk down that aisle." Like I saw something that I felt something, and I was like, "Hey, let me make this decision based on what I saw and how I felt." You know what I'm saying? So I had to realize something like, and that's what you got to do. You got to dig a little bit deeper. Stop going on the shallow surface. Get beyond the surface and dig a little bit deeper. But again, that's what happens when you deal with betrayal. You know what I'm saying? Like your emotions are all over the place. And let me tell you something, your emotions will take you into a bad realm. It'll take you into a very bad place. It will take you into a very low place. And that's why, listen, like I've learned that you gotta have emotional intelligence out here. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have emotional intelligence. Like you can't allow your emotions to take control of you. Because if you do, you won't see God's plan. You won't see the purpose. You won't see the why. Like, listen, there was a reason why that person betrayed me. There was a reason. Like, it's a reason why your mama betrayed you. But listen, you're so stuck on the fact that, oh my God, like why did they do this to me? Woe is me. Baby, it had to happen. Like you had to go through that pain. You had to feel that God forsakenness. Sometimes you need to feel that God forsakenness because that empty feeling, that hurt causes you to draw closer to him. Sometimes that emptiness and that hurt and that unfulfillment will stir up a hunger in you to get closer to God. Because that betrayal, sometimes when you feel the hurt so bad, is saying that you put so much energy and power into an individual that you need to be putting in God. Sometimes we idolize people and they hurt us, and it's God's way of saying, you know what? You put too much faith and too much trust in that. Why don't you lean on me? Listen, you put you sometimes we idolize people. Sometimes we put them on a pedestal. And listen, man is man. Man is going to make you cry. Man is going to make you upset. Man is going to make you feel emotions. And sometimes you need to feel them emotions. Sometimes you need to feel them emotions. Sometimes, listen, sometimes you need to feel that pain. And listen, I'm not speaking a curse over you. I'm not hexing. Sometimes you need to feel that in order to get closer to God, in order to realize your spirituality, in order to realize what's inside of you, because sometimes we're so focused on the external. Sometimes we're so focused on people, and we're so focused on relationships, and we don't realize that some relationships are trauma bonds. My God. Sometimes we are in relationships that are basically trauma bonds. Like you talking to these people, you're connected with these people because you're in a low place. You're connected with certain people because you're in a low mind frame. You're connected with certain people and certain things because you haven't realized or you haven't been birthed into your true self. You haven't been birthed into your true gift. You haven't been birthed into your true destiny. So you playing with pigeons. And so y'all just trauma bonded because y'all have certain things in common. And listen, sometimes we flow in circles where we have certain things in common with people because we're comfortable. We're in a place of comfort. Like, I know you because of this, and we come together because of this. That's why you'll have certain people, they'll come together like they can't stand each other, but they'll come together because they don't like you. Oh my God, listen, I done seen that. You got certain jokers, you know they can't stand each other, but they'll come together, they'll come in cahoots because they don't like you. And let me tell you something, people like that, listen, that it's not true and sincere love, it's trauma bond. And let me tell you something, sometimes in order to realize or come into a place where you can recognize what true love looks like, you have to experience things like betrayal. You have to experience that type of hurt in order for your spirit to be ready to receive true love. My God, because let me tell you something, you can't truly love someone until you understand what hurt feels like. You can't really love someone until you understand what pains looks like. And that's what the Messiah was doing. He had to experience the pain as a human. He had to experience certain dimensions of humanity in order to be glorified and become our advocate. And let me tell you something, you got to experience some of these things in order for your ministry and your purpose to be birthed. You have to, and listen, that's why I realized I had to experience rejection by church leadership. I had to experience rejection by pastors. I had to experience oppression by church leadership. And let me tell you something, when it first happened, it didn't feel good. It made me angry. It made me resentful. But I had to realize something like, listen, like I was just passing through. I had to get through that. I had to get over that. And not only that, but I had to learn to love those people. I had to listen, I had to understand and realize where they were in their leg of the journey. And sometimes, and listen, that's where acceptance and validation comes in. You have to understand where people are on their. Sometimes we're putting people on a pedestal, and baby, they ain't worthy or ready to be on a pedestal. They're not ready to be in a close place in your heart. They're not ready to be close to you. They're not ready to be next to you. They're not ready for that. But a lot of times we give our pearls to swine because we're not paying attention, because we have not learned the lessons. We have not gained insight. Listen, we keep on doing this. We keep on repeating the same cycle over and over. And let me tell you something. Like being in church, being in ministry, I've counseled several different men. I've counseled several different women, and I realized, like at one point, I'm like, man, this is becoming a pattern. Like it's almost like you can see a pattern in a cycle of something happening. So listen, if it becomes something that continues to repeat itself, it's not the thing. It's not the person. The problem is the man that's in the mirror. The problem is you. My God, we don't like to hear that type of stuff. Listen, if you keep on seeing the same thing, keep repeating itself over and over and over. Listen, the problem is you, and you keep on saying, "Well, I didn't do those things. I didn't do this. I didn't do that." No, you got to dig deeper, baby. You got to go a little bit deeper. It's a reason why he allowed you to get put on that cross. It's a reason why he allowed all those people to betray you. It's a reason why he allowed these things to happen. There's something inside of you that needs to be addressed. There's something inside of you that needs to be realized. There's something inside of you that needs to be awoken. There's something that's inside of you that needs to come alive. There's something inside of you that needs to be dealt with. We expect folks to change, but we have to be the change, man. And let me tell you something that I learned about ministry. And years ago, I wanted so bad, like, people would prophesy to me, like, man, I had a dream about you was gonna be this preacher. So I always thought in my mind, like, what I'm saying, like, oh, I'm gonna be in a big old mega church. And but as God took me on my journey, I realized, like, listen, it's not about the exterior stuff. but it's about being an agent of change. That, and thank you so much, B. Ferguson. It's about being an agent of change. It's about being a shifter. And I think in church we love titles too much. We like titles because we need something to feed our ego, because our flesh ain't dead yet. Our flesh got too much power. It's raining out here too much. But I realized something, B. Ferguson, that listen, the first ministry, the first mission is to be a shifter. Listen, if you don't know what title God gave you, if you don't know or understand what your purpose is, you are to be a shifter. Listen, what let me tell you about what a shifter does. A shifter changes atmospheres. A shifter changes people. A shifter changes situations. But we don't want to be shifters. Let me tell you something. If you want to be a shifter, you're going to have to learn to navigate things such as betrayal. If you want to be a shifter, you're going to have to learn how to overcome all of your betrayal trauma and all of your narcissistic abuse trauma. You're going to have to learn to shift out of that, because you won't be able to go in and make change if bad stuff has changed you. Uh-oh. That's a deep one right there. I'm gonna back that up right there. Listen, you cannot effectuate change if all the negative things and the betrayal trauma has changed you. My God, listen, that's a heavy one. That's a heavy one right there. Listen, you cannot be a shifter. You cannot shift atmospheres. You cannot change situations. You cannot change things. And listen, that's the first ministry right there. To become a shifter, to shift the atmosphere, to bring positivity, to bring growth, to bring the blessing. In order for you to be a shifter, listen, you got to overcome your narcissistic trauma. You got to overcome your betrayal trauma. Baby, let me tell you something. There is trauma that comes from betrayal. There is trauma that comes from being a narcissistic abuse survivor. And listen, that right there, those traumas will destroy you. They'll destroy you. Listen, betrayal trauma will destroy you. Listen, it will cause you to focus on the negative stuff. It will cause you to be bitter. It will take away from your creative nature. It will take away from your gifting. It will take away from your focus. Listen, it will take away from your soberness. That betrayal trauma, that narcissistic abuse trauma. Listen, don't become your abuse. Don't become your abuser. Listen, that's what happens a lot of times. Sometimes people will they'll turn into their abuser. They'll become their abusers. All from that trauma. But let me tell you something, that trauma is real. The fight comes in when you realize, like, listen, I'm not going to be a victim of this. I'm not going to be a victim of betrayal. But listen, I'm going to learn from this situation. I'm going to gain insight from this situation. I'm going to understand myself. And let me tell you something. When you start asking yourself them questions, when you start looking deeper, when you start looking spiritually, you're going to understand and realize that, hey, like, God is talking to me in this situation. Like, God is showing me something in the midst of all of this storm. Like, God is demonstrating some things to me. He's with me. He's walking me through some stuff. Listen, that's why the Messiah said that on the cross. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Baby, sometimes you gonna be subjected to certain things. And that's what he was trying to show us, that you gonna be subjected to certain things. And listen, it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel the emotions, but you can't stay in that death. He knew he couldn't stay in that death, but he had to be forsaken. He couldn't stay in that death, and he said it. But you know what? If you from the outside looking in, you like, man, like how you did all this stuff and all these miracles and all these things that are written about you, but you saying like, why? But you're saying to God, why have you forsaken me? because he had to be forsaken. Sometimes you gotta go through that stuff. Sometimes you gotta see who your mama really is. Sometimes you gotta see who those friends are. Sometimes you gotta see it. Sometimes you gotta see it. And let me tell you something. Sometimes when you see it, it will hurt you so bad. When you see it, it will cut you so deep. But you needed to go through that because you wouldn't be here where you are today, baby, if you ain't experienced that. So he had to be forsaken by God. He had to be subjected to it. He was being subjected to something in the name of humanity because he wouldn't be able to save us. He wouldn't be able to have his ministry. He wouldn't be able to be the Messiah if he wasn't subjected to it. Yep, that's right. Listen, that's a part of your faith journey. It's a part of your faith journey to be subjected to certain things. It's a part of your faith journey. It's a part of your ministry. It's a part of your destiny. It's a part of the development of who you are, Berta, to go through certain things and be subjected to things. So if the Messiah had to be subjected to it, you're going to have to be subjected to some stuff. But listen, sometimes we think it's the end of the world. No, baby, let me tell you something. When you experience betrayal drama, it's a part of your faith journey. And listen, we don't like to talk about that stuff because it's not prosperity ministry. It's not telling us how to get a husband. It's not telling us how to get a wife. It's not telling us how to get a car. It's not a part of the prosperity narrative. It's not a part of it, baby, but it's a part of your spirituality. It's a part of what's going to cause you to shift into God's blessing. It's a part of what's going to cause you to birth into your godly character. Mm, my God. It's that's what it's gonna cause. You know what? A lot of times we want all this feel good stuff. Baby, it ain't about feel good. Let me tell you something. Something that feels good, that gives you self gratification, 9 times out of 10, it ain't gonna help you grow. And let me tell you something. What's gonna help you grow? What's gonna help you get closer to God? What's gonna help you understand and realize your own spirituality is navigating these things. That's what's going to help you grow. That's what's going to help you get stronger. That's what's going to help you realize what God really put inside of you. hmm That's what's going to help it. That's what's going to help you get to where you need to be and become who you need to be. Listen, we love preaching all this positivity and prosperity stuff. No, it's gonna be some hard work. It's gonna be some difficult stuff. Because sometimes I'm asking God and I'm seeking God for certain things, and God is throwing the ball back in your plate. Like, what you gonna do? Like, listen, are you going to get over your hurt? Are you going to get over your trauma? Are you going to stay in that place? Are you going to stay with that stuff? Are you going to stay in your mess? Are you going to stay in your immaturity? Are you going to stay in your projecting stuff? Or are you going to own certain things? Are you going to own it and begin to grow from it? Are you going to take ownership and begin to understand where you are in your perspective, in your things, in the era of your ways? Or are you going to deflect? Oh, my mama did me wrong. My daddy did me wrong. So I should just continue to hate them for the rest of my life. Like, those friends did me bad. Those friends did me dirty. And listen, I've learned, listen, to not. And my wife said that the other day. She was like, you know what? Because I didn't want to call a certain person. Why? Because when I think about them, I get negative feelings. But I had to fight myself to call them. And listen, I was positive. And the crazy part is, when I reached out to that person, they had a negative response. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be negative. I'm going to continue being positive. Why? Because the betrayal happened for a reason. It happened for a reason. And listen, sometimes we want to get mad with the person. We want to get angry with the person. No, God showed it to you for a reason. Like, there was a reason behind why God allowed you to see the picture. But see, the problem is when you don't want to see it, when you don't want to accept it, when you live in denial and you keep repeating the same behavior over and over again. So what happens is, Berta, when you keep repeating that same behavior over and over again, the stronghold can't be broken. And that's what happens. Like you keep repeating the same behavior over and over and over again. So what happens is you begin to you begin to allow that spiritual authority to be usurped. So listen, that's what happens. So you keep allowing the same thing to happen over and over. So spiritually, that door becomes open. But he's showing you the betrayal that's happening because you need to close that door. You need to put boundaries up. You need to guard your heart, and you need to understand why you subjected yourself to that person. You need to understand why you put so much faith and power in that person. Because listen, when somebody betrays you, and you have betrayal trauma, you gave that person too much power. And you got to ask yourself, did I idolize that person? Did I put them on a pedestal? Why is my heart so broken? Why do I feel so empty? And you got to check yourself, because sometimes you idolizing people. Listen, sometimes we idolize our husbands. Sometimes we idolize our parents. My God, let me tell you something. Sometimes our parents become idols to us. Why? Because like they socialize you to look up to them as some great figure and some great being. And sometimes you can't even help it. But listen, it's a reason why it happened. Because they're not your God. They don't have power over you. Like, listen, they don't have power over you. You have the power. You're not a child anymore. You have the power. But sometimes parents, they want to keep that power. They want to keep that authority. They want to keep that control. And listen, we respond to it by making them idols. We put them up on this big pedestal, forgetting that they're human, forgetting that they walk in bondage too, forgetting that they walk in curses too, forgetting that they got their own mess that they got to deal with. But yet we put them on a pedestal. And that's what we do sometimes when people hurt us deeply. Sometimes they become our idols. They're like idols. We idolize them. Sometimes we idolize our husband and our wife. And listen, when that joker go out and do some stuff, it hurts us to the core. And listen, the scripture tell me, listen, I gotta love my wife. You gotta love your husband. Listen, I love my wife, but I'm not gonna make my wife my idol. She's not gonna be my idol. But listen, I'm gonna love her how I should love her. But listen, I'm not gonna idolize her. Sometimes we give people too much power because you idolize them in your heart. Sometimes we idolize our mothers or our fathers and we put them on this great big pedestal. No, baby, they human just like you. Sometimes we idolize these leadership only to realize, baby, they human just like you. And listen, only to realize behind the mask, behind the hype, listen, they just about as low as you are. They just about as depressed as you are. They just about as confused as you are. That's why you got some of these leadership going to the Diddy parties. Because, baby, they about as low as you are. Listen, they still dealing with betrayal trauma. They still dealing with trauma. They still dealing with hurt. They still navigating certain things. But yet they got a gift and they stand up on a pulpit and it becomes a distraction with all this other stuff to the point where they can't even work on themselves. Because they got to keep on putting on a mask to stand before people. Why? Because we in church and ministry in society, we've socialized people to be like that way. Listen, you got to put on your mask. You got to look a certain way. Got to be a certain way and do certain things. No, baby, it's okay to be human. It's okay to say, hey, you know what? I need a timeout. It's okay to say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with some stuff and I need help. But listen, we don't have those type of supports. We don't have those type of networks because things are so built on superficial stuff. Because why? People have idolized your gift. And because they have idolized the gift that you have, you got to keep presenting yourself a certain way instead of being your genuine self. You can't be yourself out here with these people. It's not a safe place. So that's the process. That's what happens. Listen, we got too many idols around here. We idolize too many things. Listen, I did it when I was younger. I used to idolize one of my parents. Like one of my parents, I thought they was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Why? Because I'm gonna tell you, one of my parents, they are truly gifted. They're truly intelligent. They're truly talented. Like I used to see that parent take nothing and make it into something. But guess what? In the midst of how gifted one of my parents were, I had to realize that they were human, that they had their own bondage. And I couldn't listen. I couldn't give them that part of my heart. And that's what we do sometimes. Sometimes we give people pieces of our hearts only to realize like they human, only to realize like listen, like they don't love you like you're loving them. My God. Listen, sometimes we give people so much of our heart and we're looking for that love to come back to us. But guess what? They're not capable of giving you that love back. Sometimes we're loving on people who not even able to love us back because they don't first of all love themselves. Uh-oh. Oh shoot. Listen, sometimes some of us have fallen in love with people who could never love you back. And listen, right? You won't even be able to recognize that until you go through some stuff, until you taste some betrayal, until you walk down this road and wake up and get some discernment. You won't even be able to recognize them type of people. But listen, some people, they're not even capable of loving you. But let me tell you something, because I went through betrayal, because I dealt with narcissists, I realized, listen, I know how to pick out the people that truly love me. Listen, like when the scriptures say, try the spirit by the spirit and see if it be of God. Like you in your personal journey, you got to know how to try people's spirit. You got to know how to try a spirit. Let me tell you something. When you meet somebody, when you engage somebody, like you got to start measuring and weighing their fruit. Listen, you can't always just give your heart to people. Why? Because listen, darkness comes disguised as light. And let me tell you something. Darkness will look just like light. Uh-huh. Let me tell you something. I had a family member fooling me for years. And I would pour out my soul to this joker. I would tell him my deepest, most intimate stuff. And I used to feel like, man, this person really listens to me. This person really loved me. Do you know this joker would take everything I told him and go to the other side and tell them all kind of stuff and fabricate and twist my most deepest intimate feelings. And let me tell you something, what was so heart-wrenching about it. Like, when you get close to someone and you trust them, you tell them how you feel. You know what I'm saying? You tell them your deepest, most intimate thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And I was pouring out to this person, telling them my thoughts. And when you get comfortable with someone, anybody ever get so comfortable with somebody that you can let your hair down and relax? You can be yourself. Anybody know anybody like that where you can speak whatever comes to your mind? You ain't got to put on no filters. You ain't got to put on no front. Listen, I felt like I could let my hair down. I felt like I could tell them my deepest thoughts, my deepest feelings. And this joker took all of that information and went to the other side to other people that I ain't privy to, that I ain't friends with. He took all that information, twisted it, and kept feeding other people and started gaslighting them and came back gaslighting me. And I had to realize something in this season. I'm like, man, that hurt. But guess what? I took accountability. Why? Because I let my hair down. I let my hair down with somebody who had bad fruit. And I said something to myself. I'm like, this same person who I was pouring out to will come to me with other people's private information. And so it never dawned on me. I never paid attention to understand and realize, listen, if he does that to them, what make you think he ain't gonna do it to you? And I didn't realize it because I was not paying attention, because I too was hurt and broken. But when I woke up, I realized, I say, oh, this joker has been taking information that I give him, going to other people, trying to be relevant. Had to cut him off, had to cut him loose. But guess what? I had to experience that betrayal because listen, I'm an internal introverted person. And listen, when I can find someone who I get comfortable with, I open up and I overflow because I'm so enclosed. I'm so closed up. But I realized in that betrayal, like God was telling me, like, hey, be careful how you pick your fruit. Be careful who you open up to. Guard your heart. Be careful who you let on the inside because sometimes we open the door for people who have ulterior motives. Sometimes we open the door for people who have spiritual bondage inside of them operating and they wreak havoc on us when we allow them to come into to the door. Listen, I done seen that spirit destroy relationships with mothers and daughters, with fathers and sons. Why? Because you allowed that spirit to come in. You allowed that mindset to come in. So now you divided, you cut off, and you separated from your son. Now you're divided, you're cut off, and separated from your daughter. Why? Because you let that spirit come into your house. My God. And let me tell you something, that's biblical. That's what the Messiah told them. They was going back and forth about demons, this and that. And listen, the Messiah broke it down. He said, listen, he said, you can't take a house unless you bind up the strong man. And listen, that's the whole demonic plot of the dark side, is to bind you up, is to get you caught up in some stuff, is to get you caught off guard. So listen, those doors can be opened up. Abrahamic religion, Bible gives specific rules for owning people as property. Why do you support and condone institutions of slavery? Well, B-Men on TikTok, I didn't say I condone anything. But again, beloved, that's what happens, man. You know, sometimes we open them doors. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. Sometimes you don't wreak havoc because you open those doors. So you haven't read your Bible. I'm talking to somebody on TikTok, Beeman. Yeah, Beeman, I've read my Bible. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Yes, I do. I believe in the Christ. I believe in the Messiah. I do believe. Read it again. Sure. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it several times. I'm going to read it over and over again. Try to comprehend it. Oh, well, why would you perceive that I don't comprehend it? I don't know what gives you that perception that I don't comprehend the Bible. So, you know, that's kind of ignorant for you to come on somewhere and to begin to make assumptions about something if you don't have any specific information or insight. The Bible gives specific rules for owning people as property. Okay, and I'm trying to understand what your point being is or where you're trying to go, Mr. Beeman, claiming that faith means that you condone it. No, that doesn't. That does claiming faith. Claiming faith does not mean that I condone anything. I don't know where you get that concept from, but it sounds like you're the one that's misled by whatever principles or whatever agenda or motive or mindset you have. You can't cherry pick the Bible, sir. Well, what makes you perceive that I'm cherry picking the Bible? You said that you basically try to assign my faith to something that's written in the scripture. So apparently you don't understand. You're ignorant to certain things because faith does not mean that I condone certain things. That's you kind of need to learn a little bit more before you approach somebody about certain things and get some more facts and principles about what you're talking about before you start going into argument, right? So when you go into an argument, you need to present factual information or you need to present certain things that support your perspective. So apparently you don't have anything to support your perspective and you just kind of want to waste my time and going back and forth. This isn't an argument, it is a question. Say, why do you support or condone? Well, I don't, sir. me supporting or condoning institutions of slavery. Yeah, we gonna kind of move on from you, Mr. Beatman. You're not making any sense. But again, beloved, like I said, you gotta understand something. You know, when you experience betrayal, it's one of those things, man, where you gotta navigate it. You gotta navigate the whole situation. And you can't stay in there. You can't stay in that place. You can't stay in that dimension of death. You know what I'm saying? You got to shift out of that. You got to shift out of that stuff. And not only do you have to shift out of that stuff, but you got to do some digging. You got to do some searching. You know what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself some questions. And I think that's on my spiritual journey. That's where I've been. I've been asking myself the questions. I've been doing the work. And I think that's something that we don't do, especially as believers, especially as people of faith. Like we don't like to do the work. You know what I'm saying? We like to stay on that surface. No, baby. You got to get into a place where you dig deeper. Like we going deeper. We digging deeper. Because listen, when you begin to dig deeper, it gives you insight. It gives you understanding. You understand yourself. You understand where God is in the whole picture. And listen, let me tell you something. When you do the hard work, like it's gonna strengthen your faith. You've done exactly zero work. You don't know the faith that you claim. It's sad. Yeah, like I was saying, you got to do the work. And I realized as I began doing the work, it was strengthening me. It was making me stronger. You know what I'm saying? It was bringing me closer to God as I was doing the work. So, that's the word to the wise. Like, do the work, dig deeper, understand, listen, that betrayal trauma gonna come. Listen, trauma from betrayal is real. But listen, are you gonna stay in that place? Are you gonna stay in that bitterness? Are you gonna stay in that anger? Are you gonna stay in that depression? And listen, I realized something, like you only hurting yourself. Listen, you only hurting yourself when you sit there and you play like you're the victim. You only hurting yourself when you sit there and you play the victim. And I had to realize, like, at one point I was playing the victim. I was straight playing the victim. You going to stay ignorant? Yeah, B man, you could just go ahead and speed on, baby. Cause listen, we don't respond to negativity. You know what I'm saying? We try to keep positive vibes on here. Hello, Sharon Austin 20. Welcome to my live. We just talking a little bit here about betrayal. You know what I'm saying? Talking about betrayal and just, talking about how the Messiah, how he dealt with, some betrayal. But again, like I said, I've dealt with some betrayal, and but again, navigating my journey, I realized, like, you got to work on yourself. You got to work on you. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at yourself. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at the man in the mirror. Like you can't project. And I think that's what we have a tendency to do sometimes when things happen. We tend to project. We tend to blame other people. But listen, I'm in a place right now when stuff begins to happen, I start looking at myself first. That's what I do. I look at me. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do. I look at the person in the mirror. So, that's just my mindset right now. That's what I've grown into. Before, I used to be mad. I used to be like, well, you did something to me, this happened. No, okay, why did it happen? Like, ask the deeper questions. Why did it happen? Remaining ignorant is your fault, though. Yeah, just like, people who come on people live keep throwing negative stones, like they ain't got nothing else to do. But accountability, exactly. That's what it's about. It's about being accountable. And accountability, that's a powerful word, you know what I'm saying? And when you start taking accountability for things, you start owning them. And when you start owning things, you start taking care of them. And it's that simple. Stay away from children. Mm. Sorry, guys, I had to engage in some block ministry. Had to get some block ministry going. But again, beloved, as I was saying, hope you have a blessed Easter. I bless you too, Viking blood. But yeah, talking about betrayal. Sometimes betrayal happen for a reason. Sometimes it happened for a reason. And you know what? That sounds counterintuitive. Why would betrayal happen for a reason? It sounds counterintuitive. I've had that recently from my own mom. Yeah, sometimes, and listen, I've experienced that from very close family members. It hurts really bad. And sometimes we gotta realize, like, sometimes you gotta be separated from your family. Sometimes you gotta get away from your family, Viking blood, because you'll never grow being close to them. Sometimes we don't realize, like, when we're connected to certain people, we can't grow. Like when I was connected to my family, I couldn't grow. But listen, as I've separated from my family in the last 5 years, I've grown. But you know what? It hurts so bad. And sometimes I want family. I want to be close to family. But at the same time, I'm finding and building new family. Sometimes, and listen, I've come to the place where I understand I've took on this approach. Like, just because you're blood don't mean that we family. What makes us family is our spirits and our heart. If we got the same vision, if we share the same values, that's what family is to me nowadays. Like blood right now means nothing to me. Yeah, exactly. New family comes in the end, and that's what I'm looking for, Viking blood. I'm looking for new family. And listen, it's nothing personal with my own family. I still love them. I understand where they are. And sometimes the best healing, Viking blood, the best resolve you can come to is understanding that, hey, mom struggled with her own stuff. Dad struggled with his own stuff. Like sometimes people are just not meant to travel with you on a journey. Sometimes, like, it's a point where separation is imminent. And sometimes we don't want to embrace that. Sometimes separation is going to be imminent. Sometimes you have to be separated from people in order to grow. Sometimes relationships are going to fail. Why? Because you need separation. Just realize I'm not those people. Exactly. Sometimes, and a lot of times, the reason why we can't grow and stay with people because we're outgrowing them. Like we have a different mindset, and it begins to happen. You'll realize, like, the things that you value, the things that you see conflicts with those other people. Bless you, Lisa, on YouTube. Good to see you. But yeah, sometimes you'll realize, like, that the tension starts happening, the conflict starts happening, and then it'll just start blowing up. Listen, and embrace it. Don't run from it. Like when relationships hit a patchy road, either you gonna fix them and keep moving forward, or it's gonna be broken down. Some things are okay to be broken down. Some vehicles were only made to take you a certain limited distance. Some things, some relationships, some jobs can only take you so far. And but you got to realize, in order for you to protect yourself, in order for you to continue to grow, you got to realize, like, listen, this has limitations. Understand the limitations of your family. Understand the limitations of your friendship. Understand the limitations of your job. Understand these things. It will help you put things in perspective. And when you put things in perspective, it will help you move with more clarity. It will help you move with more understanding. Like, I understand certain friends and certain people. I can only have a surface conversation with them. It can only be a surface conversation because if I take it any deeper, they're not gonna understand me. And that's what happened, Viking blood. Like they didn't understand you. They couldn't stay with you. Good morning, Richard. They couldn't stay with you. They couldn't be there. You couldn't continue on a journey with them. And you have to understand when sometimes relationships are going to end. Sometimes, and you know what? You gotta accept it. but move on. And I realized something. Hello from Africa, Richard. And I realized something like, don't fight it. Don't fight the feeling. And sometimes we have a tendency to want to hold on to these people. Sometimes we want to bring mom with us. Listen, if you bring mom with you, it's going to destroy your marriage. If you bring mom with you, you're never going to meet your husband. If you bring those friends with you, you're never going to be able to get where you need to go. So when you see betrayal happening, when you see relationships falling apart, when you see people that's offended and that want to stay in offense, let me tell you something. When somebody really loves you, they're not going to live in offense. Some friends, they'll stay in offense for 2, 3, 4, 5. Listen, I got friends that been in offense for 10 years. They still offended about stuff. But when you love somebody, you don't stay in offense. So I had to realize on my journey that people who stay in offense are not worthy of my heart. They're not worthy of me opening my heart and being vulnerable. People that stay in offense, people that gossip and talk too much and tell other people business, like you're not worthy of me opening my heart. You're not worthy of me letting you in, because if you love me, I'm going to be precious to you. And I dealt with that with a friend. I had a friend who I kept his closest, to this day, I kept his closest, intimate, most deepest secrets. And this joker went around to everybody telling them my business. And I felt so hurt, because I'm like, wow, I protected you, but you didn't protect me. But I had to realize that that person was not capable of protecting me, because he was not capable of loving me, because it was written all over his fruit tree. He didn't have the fruit of it. So sometimes these same people who we're hurt about start looking at their fruit. Think about it. Take a minute and do that. The same people that hurt you, think about the fruit that they produce. Think about the things that they do and the way that they behave and the stuff that goes on. And it's going to tell you something. It's going to tell you that, hey, you made the right choice by separating. You made the right choice by going the other way. You made the right choice by closing that door. And sometimes we feel remorse. Sometimes we feel guilt. And it's okay sometimes. It's okay to feel remorse. It's okay to feel guilt. It's okay to have those emotions. But you got to dig on the inside. You got to search on the inside and get some clarity. Why? Why do you feel so hurt? Because they hurt me. They betrayed me. They took my trust. They took my vulnerable place. Okay, why? Because you allowed them to have that vulnerable place. Why did you have that person? Why did you give that person that vulnerable place? Because you were looking for love, because you expected love. Why were you expecting love? Why were you looking for love? Because there's emptiness inside of you. Why is there emptiness inside of you? You feel emptiness because you're not loving yourself first. Why are you not loving yourself first? Because you don't understand who you are and what you're worth. Start asking those type of questions. Listen, when you dealing with that hurt from mama, when you dealing with that hurt from daddy, start asking those whys. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. And I bet you it will point back to you something that you need to work on. And listen, my prayer for you today is that you be strengthened, that you be awoken, that you know what I'm saying, that you come into that spiritual place of empowerment, where you come into that spiritual place of awakening. Because sometimes we're so weighed down and oppressed by the trauma that is killing what's on the inside. It's killing your flow. It's killing your peace. It's killing your clarity. And listen, sometimes you don't even need to answer prayer. You just need clarity. You just need to be in a good space. You need to be in a place of peace so that you can use wisdom and insight to navigate your journey. Sometimes you don't need money. Sometimes you don't need people. Sometimes you just need your peace. Sometimes you need that peace of God that's free and clear so you can execute, so you can navigate, so that you can strategize, so that you can walk out the next step on your journey. And I had to realize that after dealing with trauma, that listen, that trauma puts you in a dark place. That trauma put me in such a dark place. Like I felt like I was planning for my funeral. I felt like my life was ending. I felt like nothing positive was going to happen for me. I felt like I could never get another job. I felt like I could never get another house. I felt like I couldn't get built back up. But listen, that's what all that negativity and trauma does to you. It weighs you down. It pulls you down. Listen, it takes your hope. It takes away from your vision. Oh my God, listen. And sometimes we don't even need money. Sometimes we don't need people. You don't need a husband. You don't need a wife. Sometimes you just need vision. And that's what happened to me. Like before I met my wife, like I was clear. And the vision I saw was my wife coming to me. And listen, that's how God started it. He gave me a vision of something. But while I was in my situation, I was like, man, I can't even see myself married. I don't have any money. Oh, I can't see myself with friends. I don't have no connections. I can't see myself with new family. I don't go anywhere. I said, listen, let me tell you something. If you get in a place of clarity, vision will start to flow. You'll start seeing yourself out of it. Why? I'm telling you why you can't operate in vision right now, because anxiety has taken over. And when anxiety takes over, you tend to pull towards the momentum of emotion. And you don't need the momentum of emotion. You need the momentum of positivity. You need the momentum of change and transformation. But listen, the trauma will put you into the momentum of emotion. And the momentum of emotion can begin to pull you back. And listen, that's why in the scripture, like Paul said it, he said, I got a war inside my members. Like there's a conflict inside of me. It's something that's fighting on my inside. Like you got to know how to fight those internal battles. You got to know how to fight when you feel depressed. You got to have people around you that can help you fight against depression, that can help you push against those negative thoughts, that can help you push. That's why, listen, I learned something. Don't give me somebody that's always going to pat me on the back and tell me, oh, good job. No, listen, give me somebody that's going to hold me accountable. Give me somebody that's going to tell me the truth. Give me somebody that's going to push me to do things that are going to make me better, that are going to make me stronger. Don't give me somebody that's going to agree with what I say. Don't give me somebody who's going to let me be comfortable in what I'm comfortable with. Listen, Lisa, we gonna have to push to the next level. We gonna have to push it to the next level. Listen, give me somebody that's gonna push me. Give me somebody that's going to challenge me. And that's what I do. Listen, when I get close to people, I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna challenge you. Listen, and I'm gonna do it in love. I'm not gonna scrutinize you, but I'm gonna push you. I'm not gonna let you be comfortable where you are. I'm not gonna watch you throw away your life. I'm not going to watch your ministry go down the drain. I'm going to push you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to challenge you. Listen, be careful with people that agree with everything you say. Listen, be careful with people that agree with everything you say. Be careful with people that just want to pat you on the back all the time. No, baby. Listen, sometimes it's good to have those hard conversations, listen, and I don't want to deal with people who don't like to have the hard conversation. Some people don't like to have hard conversations. They don't like the hard conversations. But listen, sometimes those hard conversations are very necessary. Sometimes we need those hard conversations. Sometimes we need those difficult conversations. Because listen, it's gonna help you. Because there are things, there are stuff within us, within our character, within our modus operandi that we need to change. Listen, it's constantly, and thank you so much for saying that, Berta. It's all about balance. And let me tell you something. Years ago, I had no balance. There was no balance. But listen, I've come encounter with someone that brings me balance. Sometimes we need just different people in our corner, and sometimes who you need in your corner ain't gonna look like what you want. And I think that's a problem that we have right here. We're looking for what we want instead of being open and expecting what we need. What you need ain't gonna look like what you want. And that's the problem, Lisa. We're looking for what we want. We're looking for something physical. We're looking for a certain thing. But listen, God already has what you need. We're looking for what we want. And listen, that's how it was when I was looking for a wife. I was looking for what I wanted. I was looking for what I wanted, and only to realize what I wanted or what I needed ain't got nothing to do with physical. But listen, that's what we do. We're looking for something. Listen, we're looking for what we want instead of expecting and being open to what we need. Because, baby, when you start looking for what you want, listen, the enemy gonna send you a decoy. Man, let me tell you something. Don't ever get into a place where you so anxious for something. Well, I believe like those scriptures tell you that for a reason. Because when you become anxious for something, you telling the devil, oh, the faith meter is low, so I'm going to come in and deceive you with some dark stuff. I'm telling you some stuff right here, Lisa. That's what happens when you get anxious. And listen, that's what happened when I got married the first time. I got anxious for something. I was anxious, like it was an anxiety. I'm like, here it is. I'm trying to walk with God. I can't be by myself. I need a woman to lay with. Where was that coming from? That was coming from the carnal part of me. That was coming from my flesh. That was coming from what I thought I needed. And so I started looking for what I wanted instead of being open to what I needed. And let me tell you something, when he begins to give you what you need, it ain't going to look like what you want. And in order for it to look like what you want or what it should be, it's probably going to take some work. And I realized something. I realized that about God. Like, God will give you something that you have to build by faith. And I had to realize that. I'm like, God, you say you was going to give me a ministry. God was like, I already gave you a ministry. So now you go build it by faith. Baby, let me tell you something. God ain't going to give you nothing packaged up, built up and ready to go, because God operates off of faith. It's your faith that's going to birth it. Your faith will have to birth it. My God. That's what I realized. And I was like, God, like, well, you say you was going to give me a ministry. God was like, I already gave you a ministry. So now your hands got to build it by faith. I was like, oh, woe is me. I got some work to do. I got some work to do. I realized that. I'm like, wow, God, you say you was going to give me a ministry. It's like, you already have a ministry. You already operating in your ministry. The problem is your ministry is not where it needs to be because you have not walked in faith deep enough or long enough. You have not persisted long enough in faith in order for what is supposed to happen to be birthed. So, beloved, let me tell you today, there's some birthing that has to be done. It's time for us to get on that labor table and begin to push, because some things are about to happen for your life, but it is going to take some labor. It is going to take some pain. It is going to take some fighting. It is going to take some discomfort. It is going to take some pushing. Yep. And I'm like, man, God, what do you mean? Like, I already got my ministry. Well, where's the keys to the building? Like, it's inside of you. That's what he told me. He said, it's inside of you. That's what we don't realize a lot of times. A lot of stuff is already inside of you. You just haven't walked it out. Listen, you haven't pushed it out. And listen, if you sitting up there thinking about it, 9 times out of 10, you haven't applied the dimensions and principle of faith to cause that thing to come into fruition, because you still sitting there thinking about it. You still sitting there thinking about your business. Why haven't birth? Because you haven't walked out the demonstrations and principles of faith that's needed in order for it to come to fruition. Why? Because God is the God who calls things that are not as though they were. So guess what? Whatever he ordains me to do and orchestrates for me to do is not going to look tangible, because he is the one that calls things that are not as though they were. So it's counterintuitive. It doesn't feel like something that should happen. It doesn't seem like something that should happen when he does things sometimes. But listen, all you need is the word. Listen, he already spoke the word. Listen, you're going to need the word. You're going to need vision. You're going to need spiritual vision. You're going to need faith. And that's why you cannot be a victim of trauma, because it's going to impede your spiritual vision. And listen, if you don't have spiritual vision, you cannot operate in the works of faith. Uh-oh. Yep. Listen, I'm learning that. But that's what the Most High said in my spirit. He spoke it in my spirit. I already gave you a ministry. You already got a ministry. A lot of times we're looking for something to happen in a certain way, in a certain avenue, in a certain dimension. But listen, God didn't ordain it that way. And I said that to myself. I'm like, if you think about the New Testament church, like, what, they didn't have no big old building in Dallas, Texas. They didn't have no big old cathedral in Atlanta. They ain't start out like that. They was inside their house hiding because they were oppressed. Oh, they don't really teach that in church, do they? Mm-mm. Listen, when the Messiah was crucified, and the apostles, the disciples, they were spread out. They were spreading the word. They didn't have no big old building. They didn't have no mega theater. They didn't have no amphitheater. They was having church inside their house. They were hiding. They were in hiding. They were having church in their house. Oh, we want a big old mega building. Let me tell you something. Sometimes God does, sometimes he will start things small. That's why the word tell you, despise not small beginnings. Mhm. Hello, Fireball for Christ. Welcome to my live. We were just talking about betrayal, and just some other things here, and we just kind of highlighting what the Messiah went through, and us as people, as believers, what I'm saying, as people, as faith, dealing with behavior, betrayal trauma. Because listen, like there's trauma that comes from betrayal. But the Messiah showed us, like, you listen, we're not exempt from being hurt. Like, we're not exempt from feeling as if God forsaken us. But listen, there's a purpose behind it. There's a reason behind it. And listen, that sounds oxymoronic. Like, why would God want you to be hurt? Why? Because there are things that you have to go through in order for your spirituality, in order for your calling, in order for your destiny to be birthed. You're going to have to deal with some things. You're going to have to suffer through some things. And that's why the scripture tells you that we are perplexed, but not crushed. There are some perplexities that are going to riddle your life. Sometimes it's going to seem like the world is on your back. Sometimes it seems like everybody is against you. Sometimes it seems like all of that demonic warfare has taken over your life, but there's a purpose and a reason behind it. And we can't stay in it. We got to navigate that stuff. And listen, we're navigating it with wisdom. We're navigating with insight. We're navigating it with spiritual authority. We're navigating with accountability. We're navigating in these dimensions. Friend, what are you complaining about? We're not complaining about we're sharing insight on betrayal. We're talking about betrayal. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. But again, and not only betrayal, but betrayal trauma. Betrayal trauma is something that's real. That's what we're talking about. But again, I mean, remember that. Remember that, when you go through betrayal, when you go through trauma, listen, like, sometimes it can destroy you. Sometimes we feel like the people that we were victimized by. And let me tell you, the hardest part is the aftermath. Everything will be all right. Hang in there. Yeah, definitely. And that's the mindset that we try to take on. But let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Sometimes when you're in the midst of those emotions and you dealing with that trauma, it'll take you into a dark place. It'll take you into a very, very dark place. It'll take you into a very dark place. And I can tell you, I know, because it took me to a dark place. And one thing I said, I knew my father was, he struggled with alcoholism, and the same thing started happening to me. And it was to the point where like I judged my dad. I only met my dad a handful of times. And I judged him. I was like, man, how you let drugs and alcohol take over your life? And let me tell you something. When I went through something, I found myself every morning waking up just to deal with the pain. I kept a bottle of vodka in my bag. I kept it in my bag because that's the only thing I could do was self-medicate to take away from the feelings, the overwhelming emotions and frustration and pain and anger and depression. And so when I thought about it, I was like, wow, I sat here and I judged my father. And here I am, I'm in the same boat. And you know what I'm saying? That right there made me start to feel compassion because sometimes we judge people because of the situation they're in. No, you don't know what led that person to that situation, and you don't know what life can throw at you. You could be in the same boat. And I said that. Let me tell you, I was like, I think the last time I saw my father passed away, I think in about 2002. But like about the sixth or seventh time when I saw my father, I think it was my last year in high school. I was 18 years old, and he reeked of alcohol and he was on drugs. And I was like, man, all right, man, it's a shame. Look what you do with your life. And so fast forward, here I am. I'm in my 30s, going through a divorce, going through a separation. And I was that same person. I was in the same boat. But let me tell you the difference. Like I knew the power of God. I knew that I had to surrender. I knew, you know what I'm saying? Like I knew like I had to do something. So by faith, I was like, man, I can't do nothing about this, God. I surrender to you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what helped me escape the alcoholism. What if I would have kept going down that road? That same daddy who I sat and I judged and was like, man, you ain't no good. You let alcohol and drugs take you over because you love drugs more than your kids and your family. No, I had to realize that. And then that was a humbling moment for me. I had to realize, like, listen, this thing is a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more spiritual. It's a little bit more than meets the eye. It's a little bit more than what's on the surface. So now I realize today what led my father into drugs was betrayal trauma, abuse trauma, emotional trauma, unfixed stuff. That's what led him there. It wasn't that he chose drugs over his family. And listen, sometimes that's what people are dealing with. Sometimes your demons will control you. You don't control your demons. Your demons control you. And that's what I had to realize about my dad. I was like, what happened was he began to live in his trauma. He was living in his trauma. He was living in abuse trauma. He was living in betrayal trauma, and his demons took him over. And that's what led him into alcohol. And how do I know? Because I started going down the same road. And let me tell you something, like I you I would have never imagined that I would be abusing alcohol like that. I would have, and let me tell you something. When I saw him, I said, I would never do that. And hit that, I was 18 years old. And here it is. What? Not even 20 years later, I'm in the same boat. Here it is, not even 20 years later, I'm rushing to the liquor store for my vodka. Like here it is, I'm taking my son to school because I feel so much pain. I I got a tumbler and I'm putting Gatorade in it and mixing it with vodka because like I just this pain that I'm feeling was so overwhelming. And why was I feeling pain like that? Because my demons started taking over. Because I was living in my trauma. I stayed there. I didn't try to get healed. I didn't work to get healed. I didn't work to get better. I didn't work to do different things to stop focusing on my abuser and being a victim. So I was in that same boat with my father, same situation. And I told myself I would never, ever, ever abuse alcohol. I was like, his life looked terrible, but I was in the same boat. But let me tell you something. That's what happens when you let Lisa. That's what happens when you let those demons start driving. And that's what happens when you start living in trauma. That's what happens when you start living in pain. The devil gonna start driving your car. Those demons are going to start driving your car. That depression is gonna start driving your car. And that's what happened. And listen, thank God I ain't catch no DUI. But listen, I was so deep in my pain, I wasn't worrying about DUI. I was so deep in my pain, I didn't even care. I had to find something to help me make it through my day. I couldn't work, I couldn't do nothing. I was scarred, I was broken beyond repair. But listen, but that's what the scripture tell you. The scripture tell you that he want a broken and a contrite spirit. So baby, sometimes your spirit gotta be broken in order for the life to come into you. Sometimes your spirit gotta be broken. Listen, sometimes you gotta taste death before life can come in. So sometimes death gotta come before life comes in. But again, beloved, you know, I've said my say. I thank everybody for coming on my live, being on my live, everybody on YouTube. You know, I'm about to end the live. But listen, follow me on YouTube, Lion Roar Ferguson. You know, follow me on TikTok, Ferg Knowledge 416. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna start jumping on Instagram too. You know, telling my story, you know what I'm saying? Spreading the truth, dropping these nuggets, dropping this game. You know, somebody need to hear this. Somebody is living and stuck in betrayal trauma. Somebody done went through betrayals. You know what I'm saying? Somebody done dealt with this stuff. And let me tell you something. When you got the tools to navigate the game, and listen, this is a show I used to watch back in the 80s called G.I. Joe. And it said this simple phrase that stuck with me ever since. It says, knowing is half the battle. Listen, sometimes you gotta get insight. You gotta know. You know what I'm saying? You sometimes knowing is half the battle. And listen, that's what I want to give. I want to give somebody tools to navigate the journey. Because let me tell you something. If you can navigate this thing, if you can get through it, if you can survive, you'll get better. You'll get stronger. You know what I'm saying? You'll get wiser. You'll get more insight. You'll get more powerful. But again, beloved, thank you all. It was good seeing y'all. Until next week, same time, same channel. You know what it is. Y'all be blessed.